Different's great, but being different for the sake of being different, I'm not a big fan of, right? If you just want to be different for the sake
technology
of it.
Technology, I would hide behind it.
And you start to hear some of their challenges, and yes.
Because it speaks to the core of who you are and what drives you forward. Because what makes you different is what drives you. All right, welcome everybody to the Master Connector Show. I'm Rob Genovese, and we're coming at you every week here. Hopefully you're tuning in, not for the first time, but if you are tuning for the first time, again, we are here every Wednesday, 1 p.m. Eastern time, bringing you great guests, people who are making things happen. You know, one of the things I love about this, and, you know, when Steve started this a couple of years ago, my buddy Steve Spiro, he set out to connect with people, and then he set out to connect people themselves, and he's doing a great job. And I've joined the show several months ago, and it's been a great blessing in my life because, you know, one of the things that I've learned is you can't really do great things without other people. And I started out attempting to do that as a solopreneur. I was going to leverage technology, and I was going to create systems so I could do everything by myself, and it was terrible. I made some strides, but you know what? It's never special enough. It's never as special as when you share it with other people. You know, Steve and I go way back about 27 years ago, I think now. Two former shy guys, two introverts, bullied as kids, both of us. You know, we didn't grow up as a child, you know, as children. We met somewhere in our 20s, but, you know, separately as introverts and shy kids. We were bullied and picked on. Steve has dyslexia. He's learning disabled. He overcomes a lot of that stuff. And that's what's great about the story of overcoming, because today we're both master connectors. He is the master connector, but, you know, we were taught how to connect with people and then connect people ourselves. And like I said, make sure you're marking this time and day every single week, you know, as we go live on LinkedIn, and this is going to YouTube as well, where you can be introduced to great guests, bring you great information, people who've overcome, people who have done stuff, maybe an inspiration to you, help you do stuff. But I don't want to belabor this anymore. I want to bring him on. Let's bring on the master connector himself, my buddy, my co-host, Mr. Steve Spiro. Hey, what's up, Steve?
I appreciate you, bud. And you know what? Honestly, you have been an incredible influence and inspiration for me. And, you know, some have heard the story, but if you haven't, you know, back when I was trying to find my sea legs on LinkedIn and trying to, you know, promote myself as a speaker, Rob said, you should think about video, and challenged me. And I took him up on the challenge, dove in face first, literally, and started creating a series, Fire to Friday. And then that kind of started to create a presence and a buzz, and getting on LinkedIn Live. Somehow they accepted us and accepted me, and here we are. And so I appreciate you've been a great friend.
Yeah, you know, I just want to jump in there real quick because, you know, along this journey, you know, you and I parted ways, you know, not in a bad way, but, you know, we went our own separate ways, came back.
Sure.
And the whole thing about collaboration, you know, we hooked up with a guy by the name of Russ Hedge, and I just want to give a shout out because today's show is sponsored by Russ Hedge. You know, look, you want to transform your business, you want to connect to new customers and do it successfully. You want to connect with our buddy Russ Hedge. Now, look, Russ is a grounded dude. He's a good guy. He knows how to get results. Reach out to our buddy Russ Hedge, russhedge.com. Transform your business.
Well, I appreciate that. That's awesome. And Russ is an amazing man and friend of the show, and just a great guy in general. So what's going on, friends? Steve Spiro, the Master Connector, coming at you live and direct. Listen, in our complex digital era, the art of connection has evolved into a delicate dance of technology and humanity, right? Amidst the sea of algorithms and virtual landscapes, forging genuine connections require a delicate balance of authenticity and adaptability. You know, whether through social media platforms, virtual meetings, or collaborative online spaces, the essence of connection remains rooted in empathy, understanding, and meaningful communication. You know, navigating this intricate web demands not only technological prowess, cool word, right? But also an accurate awareness of the human element where empathy transcends pixels and genuine engagement triumphs over digital noise. In this ever evolving landscape, the key to meaningful connections lies in embracing both the possibilities of limitations of our digital tools while always keeping the human experience at the forefront. And to me, it's all about connection, all about that human touch, right? We got to stop as a team, as a world, as a community, as a just get away from the screen. Let's get real. Like I put a post out recently. It's so easy to just answer an email by sending another email, but why not, if you get a text or an email and it's a little bit involved, pick up the darn phone, call the person, let's talk, right? It's nothing better than actual talk. You can't, when it's digital, it's written, you can't get a sense of a person's humanity and their passion or their empathy. You just can't get that from text. The emojis help a little bit, right? GIFs and those things can help a tiny bit, but nothing is better than real connection. So I just want to acknowledge a few people. John Braden, great to see you, sir. Yolanda, great having you on the show. As usual, great community. Make sure you let us know, whoever, listen, we are on our community on this show. And like Rob said, we're here every week. This show is for you. So we want to hear from you. We might see a number. Hey, X number of people tuning in, but we don't know you're here unless you get in the comments. So, get in there, tell us you're here. And it's a good way to connect with each other, right? So hopefully John and Yolanda, you guys have connected, right? But if you're in the comments, people know you're there and they can connect with you. And again, this is the Master Connector Show. So appreciate everybody. But listen, as we talked about, participation is key. We're not LinkedIn lurkers. We're LinkedIn participants. So get in the comments. I want you to, I know Rob's about to introduce our amazing guest. So type in, let's go. And I'll have Rob, my man here, introduce our guest. Rob, you're muted. We're not hearing you.
That was just a test to see if you're all listening. So I appreciate that. Like we were saying, we bring in great people and, we have Steve to thank for this. Steve is connecting with people to bring the best of the best, people who have made things happen, who are making things happen, who have done things that some of us are looking to achieve. So I'm going to bring up our guest with no further ado. And listen, Mr. Greg Willis, he's president of Willis Media. With over 30 years of sales, leadership, business development, and consulting experience, he's particularly strong at building lasting, collaborative relationships with his clients and providing strong account leadership through joint alliances and managed services. Greg's helped such brands as Paramount, Food Network, HBO, as well as IBM and Hewlett-Packard. He's played a key role in several successful startups, including the Food Network, Wheels TV, as well as being a board of advisor for TAN TV and High Octane TV. Please welcome to the show, Mr. Greg Willis. Hey, Greg, what's up?
Hey, Rob. Hey, guys. How are you? Good to be here.
We're not worthy, Greg. We're not worthy.
Oh, I doubt that.
It's great to have you on here. We're just appreciative of you, and it's been a great week as we prepare for the amazing Greg Willis. So we're excited to have you on this show here. Well, Greg, we want to start here. Today we're going to talk about connecting in the complex digital era and community. Make sure you're in the comments. If you have questions for Greg, comments, we want to hear from you for sure, right? Again, this is your show. But we're going to start out with the topic support. So type in hashtag support community, and we want to go, with this question here. And, for us, the reason Rob and I are on the show, the reason I am a, inspirational speaker is I want to make an influence. I want to really make a difference in this world, right? So here's the question for you. Can you share a specific example of where from your career where you face significant challenges or successfully leverage support from your network to overcome it, and what were the key lessons that you learned from this experience?
Sure, I'd be happy to. And it's great to be here. So thank you, Steve. And
Absolutely.
Probably there's a number of examples, but one I want to go back a ways early in my career. After I left HBO, I'll make it brief. I was recruited to move out to the Midwest with our first child, my wife, to Madison, Wisconsin, to run a marketing company with the idea of it turning into a cable company. Got there. The only challenge we had was while I was there, the industry got re-regulated. And it got re-regulated And all of a sudden, our major clients who were HBO and Showtime, and they had a lawsuit going on. We couldn't provide services to them at the level we needed to. So we had to diversify the business, go into other industries. Our business got unionized. I mean, it was like everything got thrown at us. And here I am out in Madison, Wisconsin, and now about to have our second child. And I needed to get out of Madison and get out of this job because it was a situation where I won't go into all the details, but the CEO sort of adopted me as his brother. It got a little crazy. He was going through a divorce. I mean, it was like one thing after another, and the business was actually going south. I turned it around. We grew the business by 25%, but I said, this is not what I signed up for. I was going to go launch a cable company. And so I used my network, and this is back in the 90s, early 90s, pre-email, and before there's ever a LinkedIn. It's just the networks I had. And I was very fortunate to have a number of folks I could talk to. One of them happened to be an executive of the Providence Journal Company who was thinking about launching a network called the TV Food Network. So I got hired, moved back to New York, and literally started in a tiny little studio on the West Side to start the Food Network. But I spent time using my network, trying to find the right opportunity. There was no digital media. There was no email. Writing letters was whatever it was. So it was overcoming that. And in my mind, it was, I was concerned the business was going to literally go south while we were there. We fortunately turned it around. So that was one stress out of the way. But I also worked for a guy who was like a big brother, but who had a temper. And so when he found out I was leaving, I was a little concerned about my life and my family, but it all worked out. But I overcame it because I used my network. I reached out to folks, and I'll give a shout out to Jeff Wayne. I don't think he's on here because he's retired, but he worked for Providence Journal, and Jack Clifford, who was the chairman of broadcast. And they brought me in to help start the Food Network. And I helped start the Food Network back in 1992.
Now you're muted, Steve.
Now you're muted.
Now it's my job to get muted. Yeah, you got to do that one time just to kind of break in the show, right? So we appreciate that. And yes, it's interesting. He's like, a little show called the Food Network, right? It's crazy. But my wife and I we're going crazy over this one show we love watching. It's called Somebody Feed Phil. He was the producer of the Everyone Loves Raymond show. And it's just a great show. And he tells a funny story how he tried pitching it to the Food Network. I don't know if you were around at the time. And he said at the time, because I went to see him live. He was actually at a show right up the road from us in New Haven, Connecticut. And he said when he pitched it to the Food Network said, "Oh yeah, we're not really focusing on food right now. We're focusing on food adjacent material," which is like, what the heck is that? But anyway, it's a great show. But I don't know why I'm getting on that tangent, but it's just a great show. And actually planning a trip to Italy, and he inspired me and my wife to go to Italy. But nothing related to the show. But I just figured I'd throw a little color in there. But here's the next part of this, and a big part of the pillars of our show is overcoming obstacles. So I want to community type in hashtag overcome. And by the way, again, any questions, throw them in the comments, right? But Greg, in a rapidly evolving media industry, right? And that's your wheelhouse, right? How do you stay resilient and motivated when faced with obstacles or setbacks? And can you highlight a time when you refused to give up, right, and explored alternative options to achieve your goals?
Absolutely. I would say, sort of going back to networking, I was fortunate to learn the idea of networking and reaching out from my father, who's one of the early folks in executive search. And this is going back in the 70s and 80s and 90s. He had a Rolodex and stacks of business cards, but he knew everybody everywhere in every industry. So I sort of followed his lead. But if you look at the media industry specifically, traditionally, from television to cable to then satellite to digital to now streaming. And I've actually been in the streaming space since 2000, since the early days when companies were trying to do streaming when there's barely any broadband. So the overcoming those challenges, in terms of how you change your digital workflow, your distribution of your network, all those things cause dramatic change in the business. And it's still going through a dramatic change. In fact, I think the consumer is ahead of the technology. Even though we have streaming and we have broadband, no one knows what's on, when it's on, in terms of the business. So you've got to continue, to your point about change. And maybe I learned this from reading Jack Welch's book or different books that I read. But one, continue to educate yourself. Doesn't matter what generation you are, the technology is going to change, the consumer experience, the consumer expectation is going to change. And whether that's media, whether that's technology, whether that's the telco business or other industries, everything is changing, right? Dramatically changing. So consumer expectations of a 24-year-old versus a 64-year-old or a 44, totally different. Whether it's in London, whether it's in Mumbai, whether it's in New York. So you got to understand how things change and continue to school yourself. And today, a comment I'll make, the big buzzword now is Gen AI. Well, Gen AI has been around for a while. I worked at IBM in Watson in 2016. In fact, ran sales for media for Watson. All that Gen AI and data AI is coming, but it will have an impact on the business. So folks in the business world have to continue to get trained up on new technology, and then share that technology and learnings with their colleagues, their peers, the folks that work for them.
When you said, you got to continually educate yourself. And, when you talk about technology, obviously technology is ever moving faster. And so that's one area where for sure, if you're connected to the technology sectors, or even if you're not, I talk to people all the time, and I'm not, I'm technology abled, and I like to keep up with stuff. But the idea of continually educating on all fronts to me is ever important. But when you say things like that, technology, new technology, listen here, if you're an older person, when I say older, if you're like over 35, 40, sometimes there's a tendency to push back against newer technology. I got to tell you, one thing is that I never wanted to be the guy who was like, oh, chat GPT, I don't do that. I like the hand manual touch but people don't understand, right, Greg, that this is a tool. It may replace some jobs, but it doesn't have to replace yours. It's a tool. I remember back in the day when people were interviewing for corporate jobs, because I spent 25 years in corporate America, I don't do email. But some of the older people said, I'm like, really? You don't do? And now if you say that, right, you don't even get the job because they think you're a lunatic. But, I appreciate
I gotta chime in
like that.
I got to chime in on that real quick. Just a side note. So you're talking about, I don't do email, coming up from the ranks, also corporate America. But I went to our high school, our college show, and I knew I was going to be a high level, advertising executive. But back then, they, not to disrespect anyone, but there was secretaries. So when there was typing class, I didn't pay attention. I really didn't, because I'm like, I'm going to have somebody that's going to do all that for me. I'm not going to need it, right? Then computers come on, and everyone needs to be able to type stuff. So I'm funny. I'm really good as a 2-finger hunt and peck guy. And funny, because back in the day when I started to type, I was actually using one of those Selectric type, not even Selectric. It was the old fashioned one where there was a ribbon, and and we were cheap. My partner and I in the advertising company were cheap. So we would literally hit the keyboard really hard, the button, whatever you call it, because it would hit the ribbon, and we didn't want to have to change a ribbon so often. So still to this day, when I'm on my laptop or whatever, I'm pounding the keyboard because it's still an instinct for me to hit the keyboard really hard. But anyway, but you're right. Technology is something you need to embrace, and it's valuable today. We do have a few questions. Looks like John put a question in there. Let me start with John. I'm currently, and maybe we could consolidate these and get your takes on it, John. I'm working on growing my small marketing company. Any suggestions? Phil Reed, I know, would you recommend taking an IPO to grow your business once your services are established? And then one more question: how deep would you go using AI group? I know that's a lot of questions, so maybe if you want to maybe give some thoughts, and we can go back and forth to some of the questions. You need me to pull them up or whatnot.
Sure. Maybe I do it sort of backwards. The AI question, which is analytics and data, right? Every company, if I look at the broadcast industry as an example, the way it's measured today is antiquated with Nielsen and some of the folks that are out there. It's changing and evolving. But where I'm going with that is that you have to have, with your consumer products good, with your television network, content company, you've got to have data to monetize what you have as content. And the streaming world right now, which is it's blown up, there's almost an overabundance of networks, and it's hard to actually measure and to monetize it. And you've got to be able to do that. So I think the AI, whether you're using AI for like recommendation engine for television and for streaming, or whether you're using it in your production, in marketing, and where you can actually develop a model. You have to understand AI is not, you don't turn it on. You have to write the model, right? You use machine learning, and then it will take the action that you're asking it to do, right? To go look for something in a massive database. Watson can look at every health database across the country and pull data together for doctors to give them better information. So a company could use it, whether it's in customer service, the data, the AI bots you talk to when you chat with are getting better. Whether it's putting it in your production of content in a news organization, go into the library and search everything that's tied to, George Bush or some name, and it can pull it out more quickly than someone actually going in and running a search. It can actually do a faster search. So there's benefits. Will there be replacements? No. I mean, it's like the car manufacturers. They Ford started building cars on an assembly line. Guess what? That changed the way the jobs are. Well, now the world's changed again. So things are going to evolve. New jobs will come along. Result of AI, but it will be beneficial. And next question about an IPO, that's a pretty big and broad question in terms of understanding the business. There's benefits of IPO. Everyone loves to see, I'm going to make a lot of money. When in reality, being a public company can be really hard. Just look at the last year of companies that have gone through, who overhired, who are now letting people go and cutting things to the bone. It's hard to be a publicly traded company. There are benefits, but there are a number of folks who are now going private. Endeavor, who I just worked with, just went private. So there's pluses and minuses to that. And in terms of launching a marketing company, getting your brand out there. You've got Rob on here, who's your brand builder, so I'll pitch him. But you've got, whether you've got to have a really engaging website, you've got to be on social media, i.e. LinkedIn, getting that message out there, identifying the audience you're going after to reach them. I'm not sure what industry you're focused on, but really bringing expertise. I also would say that whether it's a marketing company or otherwise, you want to be transparent and open in ways to help that client, right? You're not selling your services. You want to understand their business so that you've got the right marketing solutions, whatever they may be, to address that company, that business.
That's great. That's awesome. And you mentioned in definitely, I would recommend John. I think John asked the question, right? Go reach out to Rob if you haven't to, because he'd be a great person to start. Because he's not just a brand guy; he helps you understand what your core values are and the root behind it. And Rob can speak better than I can on that. So I highly recommend talk to Rob first. But you mentioned networking, right? And so that's a big part of it, right? And so I want to kind of wrap up as we're coming to the bottom of the hour. These shows, they're 30 minutes, and man, they are like, they fly. Especially we have an amazing guest like yourself with such incredible wisdom. But here's the question: type in that community, type in hashtag networking. So we and by the way, Phil, Dr. Phil Bree, really appreciate you being on here as well. He's a good friend of ours, a friend of the show, and we're actually not only broadcasting out to LinkedIn, YouTube, but also the Phoenix National Network. So if you haven't had a chance, check out the Phoenix National Network. Great resource as well. But here's the question regarding networking, right? And it was the Master Connector show, right? So we got to get in this one, right? Networking plays a crucial role in navigating the dynamic landscape of the media industry. How do you approach building and maintaining relationships with your professional network? And can you share, I don't know, any tips or strategies for effective networking?
Sure. A couple of things. One, I joined LinkedIn when it was sort of an idea way back when, because I saw it. I joined a number of networking platforms back then, and LinkedIn was the one that took off. I think networking, LinkedIn is a great vehicle. There are other ones, that are trying to compete with them, but networking, staying in communication. I've got, a personal website. I have a business website, but my personal website I use through a company called Fellow. Kurt Phelps is the founder up in Rochester, New York, of this company. And he was the one who actually really pushed me to say, you need to be networking with your network once a quarter. And it could be just, hey, let's get together and talk about the industry. Let's talk about business challenges. You're not, pitching services, but I have various databases of contacts that I send notes to on a regular basis. It could be happy holidays. It could be, hey, let's catch up because we're going into, a streaming TV conference in 2 weeks out in Denver. Let's talk about that, or whatever it may be. But it's always staying in contact. And what a lot of folks do is they spend 99% of the time on their job working when you should be spending 10% of your time on your network and outside of that. So when you need it, whether it's to help a friend out, whether it's to help yourself out, whether it's to offer something up, or just stay connected. And I'm very fortunate because I've got a lot of folks in the industry who are now my friends, whether it's the last 5 years, 10 years, 25 years plus, that I've built great relationships, and they'll reach out to me because they need help getting a job, or they're launching a business, and I can help them raise money.
I'm sorry to interrupt. I got to stop you right there because you said something that just I can't get out of my head. You said we get together not to pitch each other, but to now a lot of the circles that I'm networking in, a lot of small business owners, a lot of solopreneurs, not necessarily a small business, but maybe a couple of employees. And a lot of them think networking is about, let me tell you, Greg, about my business, so maybe you can hire me or somebody. Tell us about how you really network.
Really network is talking to people and asking how they're doing. What are they working on? What's new in their life? Whether it's on business. Oh, that's interesting. Did you know this? And wow, if you share some information, or did you know about this resource that could help you do that? Before you even get into, oh, by the way, I'm looking for a job, and you haven't even, once they bring that up, or I have services to pitch you. So it's really being transparent, and B, people are trained to hear sales pitches. They just expect it. I'm checking in to see how you're doing. Oh, here comes a sales pitch. Don't say those words. Say, how are you? What's going on? What's the latest that's happening? Oh, okay. We had a similar problem at IBM or HP or whatever company that you guys are having. So I totally relate. Oh, you can relate. I didn't think anyone else had this problem. So it's being open, right? And it's also offering to be helpful. And all of a sudden the guard goes down, right? And all of a sudden you have that conversation because people are just trained. The phone rings. If you ever answer a phone anymore, it's somebody pitching you, right? And it didn't used to be that way. Now the emails, 80% of your emails is someone pitching you a service for business or personal or otherwise. So people are just trained. Here it comes. You got to let the barrier down, open it up, and say, hey, how can I help you? And by the way, do you know anybody? Blah, blah, blah.
That's golden nuggets there. And it's funny because I think that maybe the community, I don't know, I get this feeling maybe they're tired of hearing us say it. So great hearing you say it, because it's we're all about connecting authentically, being transparent, being vulnerable, and sharing some of those things. And then the other part you said was you didn't say it in these words, but basically being others focused. How can I add value? How can it be a service? What can I do to bless you? Not what can I do to sell you, right? So thanks for bringing that up, Rob, and pulling that out, Greg. That was great. But listen, we really appreciate you getting on here. What's the best way for our community to reach you, and any final parting words that you want to say?
Absolutely. Whether it's gtwillis@gmail.com or LinkedIn, I'd love to have a call. And by the way, I love to meet in person. I'm a big believer in going out and meeting people, whether it's a cup of coffee in New York City or out here in Connecticut, versus getting on another Zoom call or another conference call. But reach out if I can help you with your business. You want to spend a half an hour to chat about it and share some ideas. Happy to do so.
Well, we appreciate you very much coming on the show here. And again, we're going to put you in the green room, but we just want to we just appreciate you in general. So
thank you, Rob, you guys, appreciate it.
Yeah.
All right. Good stuff. Good stuff. Hearing from Greg. But listen, we talked about overcoming, audience. Steve talked about hashtag overcoming. Greg talked about overcoming, right? Overcoming is part of what we do here. And, I want you to know that overcoming is the thing that helps you understand how to win in life, So you want to grab Steve's book here if you want to talk about overcoming. Steve has overcome a lot of crap that maybe you can learn from. He's put it in his book, The Tao of a Master Connector. You're going to want to pick this up. You can go get it on Amazon. But Steve will tell you about the way an introvert became a master connector. Most people think introverts aren't as successful as extroverts. Wrong, right, Steve? You already proved them wrong.
Absolutely, for sure. And I believe that being an overcomer, right? The dyslexia you mentioned, right? It just makes us stronger. Whatever kills you makes you stronger. So I appreciate that. Thank you, and thank you to the community, right, for being on here. We just appreciate you. Again, you're the reason why we're on here. I want to just mention next episode, we're going to be with Ilona Paranikonova. I'm probably butchering it, so apologize on that, Ilona, but she's going to be an incredibly dynamic guest. So next week, same bad time, same bad channel, May 15th, 1 p.m. EST. Make sure you tune in. make sure if you appreciate the show, got value out of the show, make sure you share it with your community. Get the link out to somebody you know, right? Bless them in some way. But and again, special thanks to Russ Hedge and sponsoring this episode. And if you're interested in becoming a sponsor of an episode, go to masterconnector.show. You could learn about all the up and coming. I think we're actually now officially booked out all the way to October. It's crazy. It's just amazing. But we've got the shows laid out all the way out to, I think, August. And then I know we'll be updating the website with the rest all the way into October. So it's crazy. So check out masterconnector.show. But I want to close with as I've been doing lately, with a little bit of a story. So let me tell you, a recent graduate feeling lost in their job search stumbled on a LinkedIn post by a seasoned professional and offering career advice, and intrigued, they reached out for guidance and mentorship, and leading to a transformative relationship that propelled the graduate into their dream career. The connection on LinkedIn turned into a mentorship journey that profoundly inspired and guided the graduate's professional path. So guys, folks, listen, be an inspiration, be a light, make sure that you're inspiring somebody. And again, as we say every week, let's make sure to be that light for somebody. See you next week.
And you start to hear some of their challenges, and yes,
because it speaks to the core of who you are and what drives you forward. Because what makes you different is what drives